Based on our previous broadcast, where we talked about the effect of Western civilization on African culture. You see, we made mention of some effects of this civilization, the Western civilization on African culture. But among all things, there are so many other factors that needed to be considered. First thing first is people mix up things when it comes to this issue of civilization, culture, and technology. So before we go deeper into this, I will want to say that there's a clear difference. As people mix up things, there's a clear difference between technology and civilization. Technology is a different thing entirely without mixing things up. There's a clear difference between technology and civilization. Technology is all about science. Technology is all about science. Technology is all about science, machineries, and techniques that greatly influence every individual's life. That is technology. On the other hand, we have a tradition that deals with long-established custom or belief that has been passed on from one generation to the other. But talking about civilization and culture, it is the total way of life of people in a particular place, in a particular community. So I don't want us to mix up the word technology with civilization. Even if there is no civilization, we can still be advanced on technology, which can be said to be technological advancement anyway. But this civilization is all about the way of life of people. How a group of people lived their life in a particular organization or society. So, how people live their life is culture. You see, in Africa, as a continent on its own, in Africa, as a continent, we have our own way of life. How we live, how we dress, how we eat, our greetings, and every other things about us. And that is our own culture, and which has been passed on from one generation to the other. In Africa, the way we greet our elders, the way we pay homage, the way we respect others, we have our own culture, and these are the ways we're known for. What we eat, the way we dance, the way we dress. Now, I want to ask and say, this civilization, the Western civilization we're talking about, came into Africa through their colonial masters, through the European people getting in contact with the Europeans. And at this point, they brought in their own culture to us in Africa, which we adopted. So, this their own culture is now we adopted, and stylishly we begin to forget our own culture, which I think is the problem we have today. Living our own culture for other people's culture. For example, a tribe in Nigeria, let me use Nigeria as a case study, or in Africa at large, is male children. Is the use of earring part of our male culture? Male children putting on earring, is it part of our culture? No, this is absolutely no. The use situations whereby our male children begin to plait hair, is it our own culture? It's not our culture, and it's never our norms for male children to plait hair. It is this mingling with the European people and with this Western world. That's what brings about majority of these things. And now it becomes what? A problem. In Africa, if there's anyone who is older than you by month or year, there is certain level of respect you give to these people. But today, reverse is the case. The see children of nowadays, they tend to stretch hand to their father. Is that our own culture? No, absolutely no. So these are some of the effects of this civilization in Africa. And going beyond this, on our own economy, there are several effects of this Western civilization on us far back in Africa. When you talk about Nigeria leaving their food crops into cash crop, the production of cash crop, which now serve as means of producing raw materials for this Western country. Then leaving their own food crop, which can serve as immediate consumption. And this process of leaving food crop going into cash crop has become the source of hunger and starvation in Africa. This is one of the major reasons why you see there's a lot of hunger and starvation in Africa today, because we've left what we are expected to do for what is not much expected. We go more into what is not needed, and we do less of what is needed. Going into all this cash crop takes longer period before harvesting. Using palm tree as a case study. If you plant palm tree today, it takes another 5, 6, 7, 8 years before it's fully grown and before it starts producing. Now look at the durations you've waited. Let me use Nigeria as a case study once again. Nigerian crude oil is not being processed in Nigeria. They bring it to all these countries, this Western world, then they produce for Nigeria, then Nigerian buy it back. So now our crude oil is transformed into other product because it is now used as raw materials for other products, other petroleum products, and which I think is one of the problems we have today, which serve as source of starvation. On our economy, on our social life, we see some of these problems day after day. And still, we don't have a rethink on how best we can do this to retrace back our mistake. How can we adopt back our culture? Before, in Africa, where our ladies are very decent, but today, you see African ladies, even they misused this dress code even than those who has it as their own culture. You see, majority of our people, when they dress today, to the Western world, where they dress somehow at times depends on their weather. For example, I use Nigeria once again, where Nigerian people use muffler. Is it part of our dressing? Is it part of our dress code? No, because even Nigerians weather at 28 degrees, 30 degrees, you still see people using muffler because they don't know what it stands for to those who uses this. Majority of the people who uses muffler in the Western world is just to cover their neck because of cold. But in Nigeria, where the weather is 28 degrees, 30 degrees, you still see people using muffler. So, of what importance is the muffler to somebody whose temperature is high? So I think these are some of the effects this Western civilization is having on African culture. Majority of this effect is falling on us far back in Africa so bad. So I want to beg my people far back in Africa, let us try to retrace our own culture. And despite all this civilization in the world, let us talk of other countries, other parts of the world, other continents. Do they actually live their own culture like the way we did in Africa? We have people far back in India. Do people in India, as a case study, do they live their own culture? Talk about the Asia continent. They still have their ways and their norms of doing things. Every continent are known for their way of life, their culture, the way they do things, the way they eat, what they put on, and so many other things. Do they really adopt our own culture in this Western world? So why then do we live our own culture? Why then do we live our own culture? To adopt these people's culture, living our own culture. We have so many people far back in Africa who don't even know their own dress code, how to make use of their own dress code. We have majority of them, when you bring out a particular object from their region, they don't know what it symbolizes. They don't know. Like a tribe in Nigeria, the Yoruba to be precise. Majorly our dress code is buba and soro, and to the ladies is buba and wrapper. But now today, if I want to ask to the young ones, to the young ladies in Yoruba land, how many of them knows how to tie wrapper? This Western civilization has taken off virtually all the things I expected to know, because They are not used to it anymore. The use of trousers by our ladies. All in the name of it makes us look smarter. But is that our own culture? So many people far back in Africa, if you give them their local food, they tell you, I cannot eat it, I don't know this. But far back then, things were working well. Even when our fathers remain in this their cultured and manner, how they do their things, they are well known. Like I've earlier said, when you talk about respect, the Africans are known for that. Hardly will you see somebody from Africa in the olden days stretching hand to the elders to first greet the elders first. We are known to prostrate and the ladies will kneel down. But today, I want to ask, how many children of nowadays find it too comfortable, even the ladies, to kneel down to greet their parents? We see this as civilization. But I want to say, what has this civilization brought to us? Do you mean going by this civilization, does it belittle you if we remain or if we remain in our own culture? So, that is why I've decided to come up with this topic, because this is really making Africa getting less value, even among themselves, where we no longer live as brothers. There's no longer brotherhood. No one wants to bear the burden of his brother, because the adage which says no family in London, after a while was translated or was taken back to Africa, where they said no family in Lagos. Before, in Africa, we were made to be our brother's keeper, where we believe the problem for one is problem for all. In the days of our fathers, if one among them have a problem, they assume and agree. It is our all responsibility to go around this person and we'll make sure they will solve this problem. But today, it's no longer the case. Reverse is the case because of civilization. Now, you see, the extended family give way to the nuclear family because of civilization, where nuclear family, they tend to do things on their way, leaving the extended family. But before this civilization came on board, we have 4, 5, 6 generations. You see these people, they celebrate Christmas together, they do so many things together because they assume they are one. But today, in this recent time, it's no longer so, because they assume your problem is your problem, not my problem, and which is absolutely wrong. Africa, before, our parents, they tend to live more with their husband. But today, because we adopt Western civilization, where majority of the people believe I cannot be cheated by a man. Before every slight provocation, you see them packing off their load. And this Western civilization is one of the major problems of single motherhood now in Africa, because they tend to adopt American system of living, where the percentage of single motherhood is high. It is like a culture in America. When you give birth, you assume you're on your own. Before, in Africa, it's not our culture. And every woman tends to live older with the husband and longer. But today, reverse is the case. No one wants to bow for each other. So, no one wants to bow for the husband. But going by all these, which I have mentioned, you see, going back to our culture in Africa will help us, because going back to our culture far back in Africa will help us, because we are known for this when it comes to respect. We are known for that, and this gives us much boldness as Africans. We are known for our own culture. And I want us as Africans to always have that pride. Anywhere you get to, let them know you're an African man. You get more value, more respect when you make yourself who you are. And with our culture, we can easily be identified all over the world. We can easily be identified all over the world. The way we greet each other, the way we eat, what we eat, the way we dress, the way we speak, the way we respect others. Make people know this is an African man. But today, Western civilization has taken over virtually all this, where we no longer have regards for elders. You don't respect your parents anymore. So, I want to say that the Western civilization is a culture belonging to so many other people, other continents, but not for Africa. In Africa, like I've said, we have our own way of life. The way we eat, what we eat. But today, How many of our children know majority of these things? So I want to beg our parents far back home in Africa. We can still make corrections, amendment to all this. It's a way of training our children in our own way, our culture. We need to train them how to deal with people, how to dress in our own culture, how to eat our own local food. And once again, I want to beg our people who are into agriculture far back home. Cash crop is good, but I want to urge us not to use majority of our land to go into cash crop, which serve as raw materials for this Western world. Because now in Africa today, we talk of hunger, starvation, when no one is ready to go into food crop, which serve as the basic thing that is needed. Which serve as the basic thing that is needed. So, I'm still trying to see if I can add our speakers as planned. So, please bear with us. Let me see if I can walk her down. If I'm unable to add them today, I think we'll arrange for a better day, because I guess the network is probably the problem where they are. But so we have network issues where they are, but I think there could be a better day where the network will be better, because I'm trying to add them up. I don't know why it's saying network failed or connection failed. You can join him now. I think he has sent it. Have you seen it? Have you seen it? So still trying to see if I can bring them up. Oh, let me talk to them. Okay. Okpayemi, I can see you online and the other people. Kindly send me a request, then I pick from here because I don't know why it's saying connection field if I try sending you request from here. So you can request to join, then I pick up from here. It's just saying adding, adding, adding. So I don't know what's the problem, what the problem is all about. Yeah, I'm sending it, but it's not going. It's just saying adding, adding, adding. I don't know. What's the problem? Yeah, I've told them to send request if I'll be able to accept it here. So it's just saying connection. Probably. Yeah, I'm trying to. He says sent. I'm trying to add him up, but it's not going. I'm as well sending FM request. He's saying add him, but it's not going through. He's just saying adding, adding, adding. So I don't know. So